Well, hello, lovely people. I hope you have been enjoying the morning session. Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Richard Dagnall, who's the head of independent gaming Howdoo. He will be talking about how M Media can create a new lifestyle brand.
Well, hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I look forward to the event later in the year where hopefully we can meet face to face rather than virtually. But it's appropriate that considering the circumstances that we all find ourselves in, that we're talking about the take-up of how long people are spending actually online. The latest statistics tell us that on average, just one part of the audience that many of us are interested in online, which is Generation Z, which essentially is people that are 25 years and younger. They're spending 5 billion hours a day on their mobile phones, which is an incredible number. And I can only imagine that because of the crisis that we find ourselves in of self-isolation, that number is only going up. Now, that's only one segment of the audience. So if we consider what that means, 5 billion hours a day being spent on people's mobile devices, I find the easiest way to sort of think about that number is there aren't 1 million minutes in a year. So it helps us kind of, because when we talk about these big numbers, they can become a little bit meaningless. But if we can imagine there aren't 1 million minutes in a year, and here we are with 5 billion hours being spent daily by this Generation Z. So, or Generation Z, for my American friends. So when we look at this little statistic we've got here about Generation Z, we can see that between 2010 to here we are, 2020, there's been this incredible rise of users. And what that means is that we need to be now thinking about what is it that this generation wants that it's not had before, or not had the opportunity to do before. And that's really where Howdoo has come into existence, because we were able to think about the different models and the different type of behavior that people are now experiencing online. What we mean by that is they are realizing that their time online is of value and they want something for it, which is only reasonable. So, for example, if we think of online streaming, gaming, of course, there are many people, millions of people, that are now doing that as a form of income. Now, the interesting thing is that although many aspire to wanting to be able to full-time work and put up content, when we look at the major companies that are around that are enabling people to actually use their online time for a form of income, we're really left with YouTube and with Twitch. And of course now we have Mixer as well, which famously recently paid several $1 million to get some content providers to move from one platform to another. But what this has meant in reality is that all the people that are going online and they are gaming, or they're doing something in real life, or perhaps they're teaching something, what they all have in common is they are receiving a small percentage of the revenue that's being generated through advertising. So the main way that they need to be paid is by having subscribers. And again, people that pay to subscribe to them, they get a percentage. If they are partners or in a special position, they might get 50%. That's not the case with YouTube. Obviously, with YouTube, the complaint has been continually that as people have become more popular and as they might have 1 million viewers or something incredible like that, the money that they make is very, very small in comparison to what they're reaching out to. And we feel that that's not correct. What the mistake is that all of these platforms are, of course, just a platform. They're nothing without the content provider. So we feel that the content providers need to be rewarded in a new way. It has to be in a way that they feel that they're actually receiving something of genuine value. And of course, cash is always king when it comes to that. But how do you make it so that you can change the behavior and react to the behavior of content providers and be able to give them the long list of things that they would like to see done differently? Well, that's where blockchain comes in. So by using the blockchain technology, what we can do is we can provide a platform where people are able to upload their content, but have complete control. And also from the point of view of, for example, the people that are actually watching them, the audience, we need to find a new way to make it worth their time and their worth. So blockchain enables this, because if we have a platform where people are able to stream, where they're able to chat, where they're able to share photos, where they're able to have a means of sharing ideas, and the user is obviously given a premium for doing that, but also the audience is able to be rewarded. So we do that by means of a token. So by people receiving a token for watching and participating in the audience, as well as the content provider being obviously rewarded by receiving tokens and also a share of the advertising revenue, we're now going to completely turn social media on its head, because we're now going to respond to the demands of what Generation Z wants. I like to give my daughter as an example. She received an email from Pinterest saying, "Thank you so much, because you've now posted 150,000 photos." Well, obviously, I'll let you guess how I reacted to that, finding out she'd been spending so much time on Pinterest. But the point is that Pinterest recognized that she, as a content provider, had helped them, and all she got was an email. Well, what we think is that if you're a content provider, you should be the number one. So imagine what's going to happen now with Howdoo's launch. We're going to be able to completely change what's happening in the world of streaming and in the world of audience participation, because rather, as a quick example, with say someone gives $4.95, $5 a month to subscribe to watch someone. If you become a partner, if you're lucky, then you get to keep 50% of that, and you can take that money when the platform decides you've got enough revenue, and then you can take out a chunk. Well, imagine instead that what we're doing is, rather than taking 50%, we're taking 10%. The advertising revenue is split completely differently. The advertising revenue, 60% of the advertising revenue goes to the content provider. Now, if you now take into account that also the person that is watching or looking at pictures, moving them on, or watching their streamer, you also on your mobile device, you're watching away. Like I admit, I quite often watch things on YouTube on my phone. Now, rather than just watching, I'm also being rewarded, because I'm also receiving tokens for watching or sharing or looking at photos. So now everyone's getting paid, because what we're able to do is, with blockchain, we can make the tokens so that you can transfer them into your local currency, whatever that is. So you're able to turn this token into a wallet, straight into your account. And you can even have a card. So you can have your Howdoo card, and what you'll be able to do is then go in a shop and buy something with it, because you've transferred the money directly into the card. But of course, you can transfer it anywhere, transfer it into your bank account or whatever it is you want. Now, people are receiving genuine value and are appreciating their value by taking part in this 5 billion hours a day. And that will change everything, because rather than having to wait for revenue, or the revenue so small, that you won't be able to do it as a living or as part of your dream. Whereas now you can. I mean, another issue that people have, when, especially those who use Twitch, is burnout, because they can't take a day off. They have to Twitch every day. And the revenue has to be not just that, it has to be selling merchandise and things of that nature. That, of course, means that we are, will not just have one area where people can create revenue, but there'll be several areas where they can create revenue. And another thing that's important to people is security. So in the past, of course, we now know that these big channel providers, well, they have, of course, been using the data in ways that people weren't aware of, and they're not happy about that. And we know that ultimately we can't really trust these big providers to do the right thing by their users, it appears, according to all the evidence. So how can we rebuild that trust? Well, again, this is the beauty of blockchain. By using the blockchain, what we can do is ensure that everyone's data remains completely secure. And only the data that the user or the content provider wants to enable others to see is what they will actually be able to see. So that means there's also a new element to this, which is, say, for example, you are a TV channel and you're making a program for children, and you want to make sure that what they're able to do is be able to safely look online, enjoy the show, and of course receive tokens for doing it. But of course you don't want those children's information to go wherever it's going to go if it went on a normal platform. So you can have complete confidence. And the real beauty, in my opinion, is, say for example you were doing a video or a series of information and you're teaching someone something, say a new language or a new skill. Now, as the person learning, not only is the content provider being rewarded, but you're being rewarded as well. So this wonderful idea that people will be paid to learn Can you imagine what's going to happen in the future if we can help people understand that they can be paid to learn? So rather than paying to learn, they'll be paid to learn. And that's what's being enabled by the blockchain.